A-frame, and inverted guard. That's it. So what I'm doing is I have my A-frame, and I put my buckler underneath. Or I have my A-frame, my buckler is underneath. Or I have my inverted guard with my buckler underneath, and I can just turn it. So it's basically a 3-position system. 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's it. It's very easy. Because if I'm a 4-quadrant person, I just want to make sure, rubber front out a little bit. Okay. So if I'm here, especially at this range, if I'm here, I go ahead and throw out my head, please. Go ahead and throw out my body, please. Go ahead and throw out my leg, please. That's it. I'm done. This and this is all I have to do for my A-frame. Now the key is that my point stays mostly on line, because if I do this, he's going to slot me and I'm going to eat it right in the face. So I want to make sure that I have a diagonal guard, because that will stop horizontal or vertical cuts. This is very important. So, and I want to do it with my body. I can just push out with my arms, but once I do that, I have no counterattack, right? I'm going to extend it there. So I want to make sure that I turn, because that's going to let my hips do the thing I need to do so I can get a nice hard counterattack. Okay? So, of course, you're going to adjust back and forth a little bit, right? But mostly 1, 2, 3. And I actually have what I call a click drill. So what I do is I actually start out my A-frame guard and I practice click, click. So I'm rolling between my inverted guard and my A-frame, making sure that those lines are close, because I don't want to do this and then eat it right in the arm, which I'll be honest with you happens to me sometimes in practice. I'll get lazy and I'll get hit in that gap, so my left arm occasionally gets bruised. So I want to make sure that I'm closing that line every time. So here, there's a drill I do sometimes called lazy guy versus spazzy guy. So go ahead and just throw a bunch of random stuff. So I can be in my core position and just literally lazy guy versus spazzy guy. I'm just maintaining my range and adjusting so that my guard is facing whatever threat he's throwing. And you can do that with any of them. You can do it with A-frame too. Go ahead and do spazzy guy again. Be lazy. Defense is hard. Don't work at it. Right? So the other thing is a lot of people are pushing over too far. Sword swings come in arcs. They don't come in flat planes. So when Robert's swinging at me, even if you swing at this side of the head, I don't actually have to block all the way to the side. I don't have to do that. I can just put my sword right there. Right? It's barely in front of me. Because sword swings come in arcs. I don't actually have to block literally the side of my head. I just need to interrupt the sword swing. So this should be mostly in front of you. You're really, what is that, 30 degrees-ish? Maybe less. So as you're practicing your clicking drill, you're really only shifting your core 30 degrees side to side.
You're doing something with your hips as you shift from one guard to the other.
My core should be doing the work. So I'm not pushing over and
So
pulling
your hip
over.
is forward, here, and backwards. Yeah, okay.
Mostly
Just want to make sure I get it.
the relation of my buckler and my belly button stay mostly the same.
Okay.
Right? And I'm just kind of adjusting with it.
It feels like you're moving, so it's like the strong part of your core is lined up.
Yes. Because if you're fighting an Uther, not too many of us are going to go, haha, and block that. That's not really likely to happen, especially if he's invested. So we want the force to come into our core, not into the side where stuff is going to get batted away. It's the same thing with the sword parry. If I take stuff straight on, I'm pretty strong. If stuff comes into the side, it's going to get blown through. So it's the same thing with the buckler.
On the click here, are you going that way or are you going
Yeah.
that way?
Whatever. So that's whatever. The important thing is not this, so that things don't shoot together. So if you feel like in front is better, awesome. I'm tapping my pommel on the top, but I don't think that's really crucial. See, and that's why I mean about this being slightly more fortified, because if I had a cross-hilted sword, right, I would not block like this, because I would eat it right in the hand. I would have to hide that hand more. But since we had the basket, and other people are engaging in a particular combat sport that we're doing, I feel perfectly happy making use of my basket, because we are fighting a combat sport that has certain tools and rules, and we can use period techniques to work best in our particular set.
And the basket kind of gets in the way.
It does. Like this kind of stuff is a lot easier if you just have a cross-hilted sword. If anybody wants to fight with a cross-hilted sword, that's super awesome. Don't do that. That's when you would hide. Okay. All right. Questions on the 3 defensive positions? All right.
If you don't have to hide, though, you shouldn't hide because it gives you more.
Exactly. Yep. Especially so I have like a defensive bar and I get extra length with it because I can I get almost another foot. Right? 6 to 8 inches. So,
But I see some rapiers and I'll hide behind it.
Yeah. But if you look at Morozzo's stuff, which is, 16th, he does a lot more not hiding because he starts having complex hand protection. Might as well use it. Now, watch out for the little thrust in the gaps of the bars, of course. All right, so let's go ahead and pair up again. Pair up with a new partner. And what I would like you guys to do is we're going to put those 2 things together. So practice setting up in some different guards. Okay, have somebody work some attacks from those outside guards, and you're going to practice your 3 defensive positions. Right? I just want you to get a sense of how this works, how it flows very nicely. Get with new partners, please. Jill.
Outside, you decide that you're going to do like
My question is when I'm doing
Take your stuff.
this one here and then I switch to this one. And I'm switching my body too.
Turn.
That way? With the hip? Well, this way I'm going to here.
So he was here, and when he came in, he kind of pushed forward and took us over. So from here, but the important thing is I want to make sure that I'm training so that the strongest part of my guard, right,
Yeah.
is taking, and right, it's going to break. So you want to make sure you're very.
No, it's not that. It's fine. And she would actually play, not anything else.
Now, don't forget about your buckles. Like kind of.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's all right.
Guys, maybe practice doing 3 attacks each back and forth. I don't want this to turn into forward yet. I want to get maybe do some 3.
Because that way, if you guess wrong, you still have the sword. If he's doing a funny swoop. So when you block this, you block the leg,
This is your legs.
sword
That's
blocks
actually
the
out.
head.
Okay, so go into, do that one again. Now you go and block.
Oh, if there's those.
What do I have to do to trigger that? You go over here.
You can always do a little outside step.
So I should like hit it that way. Oh, I see now what I want to do. If I'm going over here for this, I want to bring this up here from what I
So remember, you want to
but that separates them.
Yeah, because you're anticipating the moment.
I'm not tracking so I'm not
So
tracking,
what you're
If
thinking,
I come over here for this,
I block here.
but I'm intersecting two tracks. So I actually should be able to see my So see how I can see the inside of my buckle and the inside of the foot? That's what I want. I want to be able to see the inside of my foot.
But you can also pull from here.
Right, okay.
Now you can cover yourself.
Okay, Jacques, you're not going to be able to throw anything good. You've got a very straight arm with respect. So that's why we still need the sword forward guard. If I'm here, and you I'll sit this way.
Just making sure you can.
I don't believe it has to be. Certainly I do. So what's that place where the hip, the shoulder,
That's why you get into my life.
Yeah.
Also, if I were architect, I would not necessarily do this. I'd have to be there today.
All right, guys, gather in for a second. We're going to talk about another concept, and I'm going to make you do some more stuff. So, Yannick just mentioned that this relies very heavily on footwork. So, one of the things that I talk about a lot is the idea of the defensive wedge. Has anybody been exposed to the concept of the defensive wedge before? Me? Well, yes, we talked about it. Okay. Robert, come on out, please. All right. So, the defensive wedge is very simply the idea that the pi wedge of angles I have to deal with becomes more the closer I get to Robert. So, when we're here, please throw a flat snap at me. Okay, please throw a wrap at me. Did I have to move? Where did his tool intercept my tool in my defense? Pretty much right in front of me. So without moving, just throw a bunch of random stuff, please. So my wedge is very narrow. I barely have to turn side to side. Now, watch what happens. Go ahead and throw a bunch of stuff. I'm going to walk at you. So I can defend this, defend this, defend this. How much more do I have to move now that I'm close to you? Much more. So the pi wedge of real estate I have to deal with side to side gets greater the closer I get to him. Until we get to where I'm here, he's throwing out, I'm having to do crazy shit like this, right? He can literally hit me 360. We don't want that. So when we're doing this stuff, especially when you're practicing using that very simplistic defensive system, you want to maintain your range at a point where your defensive wedge is fairly narrow. So I can be in a place where, you know, we're fighting. I'm still in a place where with a gather I can hit him, but if he throws a flat snap at me, it's very simple. Okay, if he throws a wrap at me, it's very simple. Okay, his tool is still hitting the front of me. I'm just adjusting a little bit. So you want to defend the part of your body that is in danger. You know, you've got upright, up, down, left, right. So you got to pick those quadrants. But I'm just intercepting the arc, right? And that's why with these little turns, we can do all this kind of stuff. So when you're practicing your defense, you need to maintain a range where your wedge is narrow. Of course, as the offensive person, he would really like to break my wedge, right? If I'm out here and I've got good range and he's throwing stuff and it's easy for me to block, he's going to want to move. So how would you break my wedge? See, now, if he go and throw a flat snap, I have to really move to do that, right? So if I stop and do this, it's not that I can't, but certainly I'm working harder. Okay, now please do that same motion. If I move with him, and it's much easier. I don't have to move right now. So that's part of why it's so footwork dependent, is I want to use my range and my angles to keep my wedge very narrow. I would like to work as little as possible to not die. And that's how we do this. Now conversely, especially with counterattacking, a good way to think of it is that you want to defend where your wedge is narrow and then attack where his wedge is wide. So just throw a flat snap and then freeze. So I want to narrow wedge and then step into where his wedge is, right? Because now go ahead and defend. Look at how much he has to move. If I stay here, okay, and just flip back, it's pretty easy, right? His tool's right in front of him, it's pretty much going to cover. So if I can have an exchange where I have narrow wedge to wide wedge, where he really has to move, I get both a defensive and an offensive advantage. And that's all based on footwork. Does that make sense? Does that seem weird or unclear to anybody?
So to some extent, what you're doing is counter-punching with your feet.
It's exactly right. Absolutely. Certainly, if you have fought with me and practiced a lot, you know that especially if I'm really interested in winning a lot, my goal is to give you never a chance to hit me ever. And what I mean by that is not just running away, but I want to be in a place where you miss, or I barely have to move to defend, but then I get to hit you. And the way you do that is with range and footwork, right? And angles. Some of this is an angle thing. Part of it too is where you move. So go ahead and throw a flat snap. If I back up, okay, great, he didn't hit me. I can't hit him either. Go ahead and throw that same flat snap. Great, he didn't hit me, but I get to hit him. And that's because I moved somewhat laterally, slightly diagonally. I didn't just go back. So we'll go into that more. But the point is you need to use your angles and your range to make things easy for you and hard for the bad guy. So really quickly, just pair up again to work those defensive positions, but think about how much you have to move. And if you find yourself having to really dump for the click drill when you're doing this against a person, mess with your footwork a little bit. Find out where you can do this pretty much in front of you. I am always seeing the back of my tools. I'm not ever doing this. So if you find yourself having to do this, you mess up. The footwork's wrong. So even when I'm doing this, I can still see the back of my tools. Even when I block a wrap, I can still see the back of my tools. If you find yourself having to suck in, that just means you mess up the range a little bit. So go ahead and pair back up. Just do that for like 3 more minutes, please. And then we'll see if we have questions and move on.
Let's start high tech.
Holiday. You want to have perfect accounts. You know, opposite A, I'm going to have a nice little curve. I'm going to go through my anchor on one side, have a nice little curve. So you're working perfecting stuff, and he's going to work on having perfect curve. Oh, it didn't move.
So that one you should probably pivot the body to push the, because that comes in, yeah, to bring the sword over onto the mouse. There you go. So we're going to the A-frame. So here you can go to the A-frame and push it into the, that's it. There it is. That's it.
What about if here? So then here? Starting down.
All right, guys, come on back in. We're gonna start to do something that's a little more computational. Before I go on to something that's somewhat mentally tiring, do you guys have questions or comments or concerns about either the engaging guards or the 3-position defense concept? My feelings won't be hurt if you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Won't bother me. Questions? Good? Okay, so there are 2 drills that I like to work with this. Fred, come on out because you do these with me all the time. Okay. The first one is the simpler one. It's called the what's next drill. So go ahead and be in your stance, right? So if Fred throws a shot, he's going to throw a shot, I'm going to block. Okay. Now, he's going to look at me and go, what's next? So if I had moved here, where will I be open? Because every time you close a line with a guard, you will open a line somewhere else. Okay, so Fred, where am I open? Absolutely, right? So I'm going to have to defend that. Okay. Easiest way, of course, is to just refuse the leg and come back with the A-frame. Because either he's going to hit my toes or he's going to airball, right? And then so you just play the what's next. Okay. The other version of that, which is more for the defensive person, is called the blind man drill. Everybody loves this drill. By that I mean they all hate it. But I'm going to make you do it anyway. So the blind man drill is this. Fred is going to throw a shot. This is slow work. You can do it in helmets if you want, but this is slow work. He's going to throw a shot. I'm going to watch it coming in. I'm going to block however I want. Once he's landed a shot, he's going to keep a little positive pressure. At this point, I'm going to close my eyes. My eyes are shut. Okay. When I feel his pressure leave, I'm going to defend where I think I'm in danger. If I get it right, he leaves his tool on mine with some positive pressure. And when I feel him leave and go to the next shot, I'm going to defend where I think I'm in danger. Okay? And then if I get it right, I go on to the next one. And then once he leaves, I go to the next one, and so on and so on and so on. My eyes were shut that whole time. Okay. The idea is that I'm knowing, based on my body position, where I am open. Okay. So that means I do not have to watch my opponent, process what they're doing, and then choose a defensive option. I'm defending where I know I am open based on my own body position. This is super important if you wear, it's super important, period, because it gives you more computing power to do other stuff. But also, it makes you faster, right? So, and speed's everything, clearly that's all that matters in fighting. But what I want you guys to do is I want you to feel where you are open. There are a couple of things. The other thing is even if we're doing this, so go ahead and throw your shot, please. So he's throwing his shot, he's left, Right, go and leave. I block. So he can finish it, or he can go to a shot that is harder for him. So if he sees I've got it covered, he can choose something else, absolutely. So do your thing. Boom, he starts to move, it's covered, he's got to go somewhere else. But that gives me time to see it, right? I'm taking away, Havek calls it the first fastest. I'm taking away his best option. I'm forcing him to go to a secondary option, which will be harder for him, more awkward for him, take more time. All gives me advantages in the fight, okay? And this is not something I don't look and go, what's he throwing? Okay, how do I defend that? Do the thing. I block the zone of my body that is in danger. This is why we want to close off lines anyway, right? I really only want to have 2 choices. So let me do this wrong. So throw your first shot. Okay. If I've done this, okay, how many quadrants are open on me? 3, right? The upper left and both lower quadrants. I have to make 3 choices with my eyes shut.
Your back's open too.
Huh?
Wraps open.
Yeah, wraps open. But it's still one of the quadrants. Okay. Now, if I do this, how many quadrants are open? 2. Maybe 2. Throw the offside leg. Okay. But I only have to make 1 choice. Okay, that's why I want to stack the tools. I want to stack the tools, I want to maximize the range. So when you do the blind man drill, move your feet. Turn your body. You don't have to stand there and be a defensive god with just your tools. That's not, some people can do that, I can't, and I'm not going to ask you guys to do that either. I want you to move your feet, turn your body, but I want you to close lines and minimize the options so you really only have to deal with 2. That's part of why we pair the tools, because if I don't pair my tools, I have to choose between 4. If I do pair my tools, I basically have to choose right or left, and that's about it. And that's what we want to do. Please get with a new partner, and we're going to do maybe go to 2 touches and then switch jobs. This is a mentally very tiring drill. So get a new partner. This is slow work. Let me emphasize that one more time. Slow work. You are the offensive person. You are throwing to the best opening that you have. Your first major target.
Want to go offense first or defense?
All right, can you just all right? So you were here, and I closed my eyes, went here.
I think we just need too close.
All right, who's doing what?
Okay, so I'm defending right now.
Okay, so you're going to watch the first one? Okay. Okay, throw your punch. Well, that was flat. Let's try that again.
Touch, okay. Let me get to 2 touches.
There.
That was on touch. That was the center.
I just figured
I got confounded.
All right.
So wasn't that positive pressure to respond to the reaction? Wasn't quite sure what to do.
I mean, I think for the defensive person,
So, like I said, watch the first one come in, and then you don't get to move until you feel Brian's pressure.
Keep the bump late. Gonna leave the pressure.